There we go. Looks like. Oh, finally. Well, that took forever. I guess I'm late. Sorry about that, guys and girls. Oh, looks like camera's good. Drop me a note in the comments there if the audio is good. Doesn't say it's working, or I'm crazy. One of the two. Well, we'll get started here in just a second. If somebody will drop a comment and let me know that the audio is working okay. Video seems to be working finally. Um, I guess I'm not the king of live streams here, not at all. So every time I try to do this, it acts funny on me. So, or I'm just really horrible at it. So one of the two. Hopefully, you all can hear me okay. If one of y'all can drop it in the comments there, or let me know if you can hear me okay. I am not. Huh. Okay. Jay, I appreciate that. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Yeah, for whatever reason, I um, couldn't get the computer to cooperate with me. I'm using StreamYard now as my live stream deal, and I'm a rookie, I guess. So, anyway, I hope you all had a great day today. I did. I just dropped some pictures over on Instagram. Spent the afternoon at Edelbrock. They were doing their first annual, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they've had another one, car show. So that was kind of cool. Clay Milliken was there. It was nice to always hang out with him for a few minutes and see his two sisters. They're a lot of fun. They're a great local family, and having a top fuel driver that just won the St. Louis race there was kind of cool. So I am so stoked for that guy finally doing really well in top fuel. But that's what happens when you bring in big money to a team. So very, very cool to see him. I won't see him again, I don't think, until the Las Vegas race here in a couple of weeks. It's the weekend before SEMA. So really looking forward to that. I try to always attend that race every year because I go out to SEMA every year, and the NHRA race is the weekend before, and it's always a good time, and good people, and I don't not particularly a huge fan of the Las Vegas track. I think I said St. Louis, but I'm not a real huge fan of that four wide type track. So it is what it is, but um, not my speed. Anyway, let's just jump in. I want to talk about AVS 2 tonight because I've gotten a bunch of questions. We've covered most of this stuff before. There's a couple little things that we'll cover, kind of give you some more details on it. But I think part of the not confusion, but when you've got some different things to play with, sometimes it kind of gives you a little bit of a um, maybe a difficult way of looking at it if you're used to the old performer style carburetor. We're going to talk about that carburetor in a minute because it's fairly unique. That's where the rare part came from in the title. Wasn't just try to throw some clickbait out there. We'll talk about that one in a few minutes. I don't think I could do clickbait. It's clickbait, right? So yeah, whatever. But anyway, that is a fairly rare carburetor. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So if you guys have any questions on the AVS2 or even the Performer Series carburetor, leave it in the chat. I'm happy to talk about it. I think we're far enough in that YouTube won't fight me, but it is another Yingling night, so I appreciate that. I've had a long day talking, and I don't usually do a lot of that during the day for whatever reason, so I always lose my voice a little bit. So if I crack up a little bit, I've got plenty of beer. So, oh yeah, okay. So AVS 2. Let me get that out of the way before I knock it over. I already went ahead and started to tear this one down. I'm going to rebuild this one. Um, I may make some modifications to this to do some testing on the GMC truck. We'll go over that a little bit tonight, but more in the coming weeks. But I've already knocked some of the hardware out of here. I haven't been into this one yet, so I don't know what it looks like on the inside. So we'll kind of get to see that together. Not that big of a deal, really. But anyway, somebody had asked, I think maybe in the Facebook group, or maybe it was Instagram, I don't know, or maybe it was here on YouTube, why the AVS2? Why did Edelbrock do that? And I think it is kind of a weird deal, especially when you look at the new VRS carburetor as well too. These look pretty good. I think it is pretty strange that a company in this day and age where carburation is supposed to be dead, that they would spend a lot of money to try to update this carburetor. If you followed the little bit of the history of it, the Performer Series carburetor had been out since the late 80s. And then the Thunder Series carburetor came out that had the air valve secondary on it. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight too. That was the upgrade from the Performer Series. And then they decided to retool and reinvest again to put annular boosters into this AVS2, which it doesn't sound like a big deal, but one of the things that keeps coming up frequently is, can you put an annular booster? And I think, yeah, here's an annular booster out of an AVS carburetor. Can you put an annular booster in the old Performer Series carburetor? And the answer to that is yes. It will physically fit. It's the same dimensions, pretty much the same gasket is used. There is really no physical difference in it. But where the difference comes in is there's a reason why the AVS2 is offered in a 650 and not a 600. Why is that? The big reason for that is that annular booster requires a little bit more airspeed for it to meter the fuel out of the bowl and through the jet properly into that booster. And so it will spray whatever those number of little spray nozzles are inside there. That's the big reason why. Edelbrock, I think I'm almost 100% sure, after talking to that engineer quite a bit over the past years, they tried to put the annular booster into the 600 and they just couldn't get it to perform right. They almost gave up on it, I think, because they had spent so much time, and time's money on the manufacturing side. If you don't produce something really quick and turn it into something that goes on the shelf to sell, you run into some problems, especially in something that's supposedly a dying category like a carburetor. So they tried all sorts of different things. And I think the biggest one was just bumping up the CFM a little bit. So they changed the bore diameter of how much air it would flow, how much CFM it would flow. And Shazam, on a 650, it had enough power, airspeed, to draw that through there. But what we're going to do in the future is we're going to take a 600 and not that one, we're going to take a 600 and I'm going to put the 650 boosters into it. We'll drive it. We'll AFR, look at it and see how it operates. And then we'll see where those lean spots occur and where the stumbling potentially occurs and where those issues are. So that's a common question that keeps getting asked over and over again. Can I get these annular boosters, and can I use them in my 1406 or 1405? If you can find them, if you can buy a core, which will cost you some money, and then take the boosters out, you can physically put them in there. But yeah, they're just not going to meter fuel properly. And we're going to prove that on the truck. I don't know when we're going to be able to get to that. That truck has been fist fighting me for quite a few months now. But we'll talk about that some other time. It's unfortunately kind of irritating me, but what do you do? I guess you all have seen this, I think, before on other videos, but there's a straight or a down leg style, and obviously the annular. You see the little nub sticking out of there. Maybe you can. I don't know. So anyway, that's your primary difference. But if you look at the same, they're exactly the same. The footprint's the same. It will fit down into the carburetor the same. It's, all the same characteristics and attributes of it. This happens to be two different sizes. This is a driver's side. This is a passenger side. We know that where the air bleed wells or the air bleed tube is at. But yeah, they're identical. They will fit into that carburetor, no problem. But we'll test that out. So anyway, it's a question that kept coming up. Just thought I'd talk about that on the live stream a little bit here tonight, and then for sure answer any questions about it. So let me take a look at the chat, see if there's anything over there. 305 Chevy long tube headers. Yeah. John the Rambler. That's a tough one, bud. If you take, here's the issue, and I've got no issue with the 305, but the problem with those sub 4-inch bore engines are they're just really hard to produce power with it. So if you have a stock 305 with long tube headers and an RV type cam, which I'm assuming what you meant there, I would stick with the 500, 100%. It'll give you a better throttle response. It will be easier to tune. You won't run into any rich issues. You won't run into issues that you can't tune out, meaning it's getting too much fuel or it's not getting enough because the airspeed isn't enough, because that sub 4-inch bore engine isn't drawing enough signal to the carburetor to allow that to happen. So over and over and over again, I will use a 500 on a 305, and it's a fun, snappy little easy to tune, fun to drive engine. So, yeah, the 650 maybe down the road if you bumped up the compression aggressively, change the cylinder head on it. That's an issue, and a little bit bigger cam profile and move on down the road. The trouble with that is it's always going to be a sub 4-inch bore engine. You can't bore it out to turn it into a 350, and that's the hard part about it. And there's not a lot of manufacturers that are making product really for those 305s, not in the performance type product anyway. You can rebuild them all day long. So they're kind of tough for that. They're still a small block Chevy. They're still very dependable, and you can have a lot of fun with it, but just set your expectations that, if you really want to build a more aggressive horsepower engine, it's really difficult too with the 305. So 307 is the same way. I don't got into an argument with somebody that has a fairly large YouTube channel several years ago about that. And it's like, hey, I'm not saying they're a bad engine. I'm just saying they are very difficult to make a decent amount of power out of it. So for what you're doing, John, I don't know what the application is or what it's going into. But for what you described, I would put a 500 on it all day long and let that big dog eat. Go have fun with it. So I hope that answered your question. If not, ask it again. John Weaver. Hey, John. Does AVS 2 get more mileage per gallon? Does Edelbrock sell booster separately? Nope. They have the potential to give you some more fuel economy, but it's not like you're going to bolt a 600 CFM AVS 2 on an engine in place of, say, a 600 and tune it and all of a sudden get 1 or 2 more miles per gallon of fuel economy. You will probably get a lot of really good throttle response out of it. That's really what the claim to fame is with that booster. But does Edelbrock sell those separately? That's the question that I get very, very frequently. And the answer to that's no. And the reason being is what we talked about just a minute ago. The reason why that booster isn't sold separately is because there is not enough CFM in that 600 CFM carburetor to get the signal strong enough that that booster meters feel properly. That's why Edelbrock went to the 600 to the 650, and then from the 750 to the 800. Now, that has a caveat. The 500 CFM AVS2 and Performer didn't change. So when they went from Performer on the 500 to an AVS2 style, they didn't up the CFM. They didn't go to a 550 CFM to make that work. There was a strong enough signal with those great big giant boosters, and I don't have one close by. I should have gotten one out of there, but anyway, there's the booster is big enough in those. If you ever look down inside of a 500, oh, look at that. There's the 500 right there. So the annular booster in the 500 is really the same body size. Oh, wow. I guess I forgot I took that thing apart. But anyway, they do use an annular, and the reason being is the airspeed is plenty in the 500 that the annular booster. So if you were to have a 500 Performer Series carburetor like this one is, and you had a 500 CFM AVS2, you could switch the boosters, and apparently they would run correctly. I've never tested that, but I'm assuming it is. But to the second part of your question, is does Edelbrock sell them separately? The answer to that's no. Unfortunately, they don't. So anyway, hey, look at that! I had a 500 laying around. I didn't plan that, but I'm glad we talked about it. So, let me get that out of the way. So hopefully that answered that question. But yeah, the reason why they don't sell them separately is that reason there. They won't work. So. Oh, let's see. John Lowe, just talking to say engines simply just don't respond to performance modifications like the old 307. Yeah. And the olds is a little bit different, obviously, but still basically the same thing. Anything that's got those smaller, bores in it are really hard to make power in it. But the olds is a good torque engine anyway, so even the 307. I'm going to have a rough time tonight. I can tell you already. My voice is shot from today. So, but yeah, they're hard to make power on, any of those sub 4-inch bore engines. It's the nature of the beast. There's not much you can do about it. Is what it is, but keep your expectations, not tempered or lowered, but just know that what you're going to get out of it, and it'll be fine. If you're okay with it being just a cruiser, like the GMC truck, if for some reason that didn't have the 350 in it from the factory and alls I could get my hands on at the time was a 305, I would have put a 305 in there. I'm not trying to build, a 500 horse small block for that thing. I just wanted a nice, clean, easy cruiser and nothing crazy or insane about it. So, I would have put a 305 in there all day long because I put a very small cam in it. I'm just asking for torque and good fun cruiser with a 700 R4 behind it, and it'll be fine. So you just have to set your expectations on it. And as long as you do that, you should be good to go. So, all right. I think kind of getting used to the StreamYard thing again. I think we got everybody answered. So anyway, good. Those are very, very good questions. And again, that's why I love doing these live streams. I just feel like I don't do them often enough. And now that I have the StreamYard again, I'm thinking maybe at least once a month I'll do a live stream with y'all just because I enjoy them immensely. And hopefully y'all get something out of it too. So it's a fun way for me to spend Saturday or Sunday evening. So, all right, I think we got everything out of there. Break that loose. Again, I haven't been into this thing, but woo, she very rarely happens where that gasket breaks apart like that. So it's fair. Smells fairly strong of fuel, but it's doesn't look like it's been abused on the inside, or got a little bit of deposits in there. You can always tell that white stuff is typically from the ethanol and the water, and what the water leaves behind. It's typically not the ethanol, but it's starting to deteriorate a little bit in there. But it's looking like a good rebuildable core for now, so which is good, which is what I wanted. So it still has the 31 nozzle in it, so hasn't been changed from what I can tell. It's a little filthy, but I think that was my fault. Cutting the grass and shot a bunch of grass in from the outside, so we won't talk about that. So anyway, but okay. Well, it looks like a pretty good core. So okay, we talked about the boosters. What else did I want to have? Oh, the AVS. Let me go ahead and knock these floats out of here. These don't look too bad. Usually it's really hard to tell with a float. The only way you can really verify it, and I always do, is to dunk it in some mineral spirits. Don't use an open container of gasoline in your garage or outside. It's just not smart. Mineral spirits don't have a flash point like gasoline does, and you can dunk them down there. It's got the same specific density of fuel, gasoline, so it's always good. That's what a lot of the manufacturers will use when they're testing fuel pumps or filters for flow and rating and all that, is mineral spirits, because it's probably not going to blow up whatever the shop they're working in. So, but okay, let us talk a little bit about the air valve secondary, because again, I get a lot of questions about this. Let me grab, or I guess let me check the comments, I guess, first. I need to remember to do that. So, does the AVS 2 get more miles per gallon? I think we already answered that one. Talked about that. I guess we got everything so far. So, okay, cool. I will try to watch the comments a little closer, so I won't try to keep jumping around like that. But I do like that about StreamYard, to be able to pop up your comment up there. It's good. They don't have to, it's good so you can see it and everybody knows what we're talking about. So I do like that. So purchasing that software again wasn't a bad idea. I forgot how much I liked it. But anyway, air valve secondary. Let me grab. There it is. So this is the weighted air valve out of the Performer Series carburetor. This one happens to be out of 1406. We know that also too because they stamped the part number on there. I think you can kind of see that, or it's really washed out from the light. There we go. But anyway, I usually mark it 1406 because sometimes I don't have that printed in the garage here. But anyway, I know that's out of a 1406 because it's got the part number on it. But anyway, Edelbrock switched from this, not because this was wrong. Remember, we did a video on, got to be careful on this one because I don't want everybody running out and drilling these things. But we did a video on how to modify this to get it to open quicker. And to do that is to remove weight. Some people will drill right through the side of the thing, take a little bit of weight out, drill that side, and keep going until they get, what they want. But that doesn't leave you, if you drill through that area there, it doesn't leave you any way to put material back if you had to. That's why I always drill them straight down this way. That way you can go as deep as you want. You're not taking out a ton of material, but if you ever go, oh my God, I screwed up, that's the worst in the world. Now my secondaries don't open the way they should. They're opening way too soon. I don't want that. You can always fill it back up with some material to add some more weight back to it. So big proponent of that. definitely not of modifying these, because if you drill this and it doesn't work and it sucks, well, you're stuck with it and you're out going buying another core. Anyway, that issue that some people have where they want to try to tune the secondaries in a little bit with the Performer Series carburetor is much different and difficult. So Edelbrock wanted to give that to the end user to help them tune a little bit better. And so the air valve secondary came along, where you have a locking screw here and then you have an adjusting screw. And I did a video on how to adjust that. But one of the things that people do is they will take a look at the tension on there and go, okay, well, let me screw this so this opens quicker. There's less tension on the screw. And that doesn't snap the fuel out of the secondaries and trigger the secondary boosters to start pulling fuel from the bowl quicker. It actually delays it. You want a little bit stronger. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it works. And we're going to do a video on that as well too, where we will dial in the rest of the carburetor, and then on the AVS2 we will adjust this incorrectly to see what the AFR looks like, what the RPM looks like. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put EGTs on the truck. I would like to, but it's a cost right now that I can't afford. But looking at the exhaust gas temperature is not a bad thing. It's a really good one to read in conjunction with AFR, but AFR is going to tell us everything we need to know there. So not that big of a deal. But the AVS side makes that carburetor just so much better. So when Edelbrock made the Performer Series carburetor and then went to the Thunder Series, which is now discontinued, that had that AVS2 adjustable secondary, then they continued down that path and said, okay, what's it going to take to get better throttle response? How do we help folks cure that little off idle stumble that they get? And going to that annular booster is certainly a great way to do it. These are the moneymaker out of an AVS2 carburetor. That's where you get your easy to tune throttle response. That's where you get your easy to good off idle, good, mid RPM or low RPM kind of cruising speed, where you're going maybe, I don't know, 16, 17, 18, 1900 RPM, and then snap the throttle to get on the freeway or pass a buddy or whatever the case may be. It's the annular booster that gives you all that. So the combination of those two parts, the annular booster and that air valve secondary, really changed the whole game with that carburetor. Just made it that much easier. Now, I read a million comments, it seems like anyway, from lots of different people that, well, I tried to, I just bought it from the store and I bolted on, and I monkeyed around, or I keep monkeying around with the idle mixture screws, and it seems to run right. They've done no tuning, but then they complain, well, I've got this issue. Well, tune the thing and you'll be just fine. You will get rid of some of those issues that you're having. But that's a hard one to do too, is to get people to not just think that this is right out of the box a great solution. It can be for a very narrow amount of applications and engines, but if you're a 350 guy, which a 650 should be really, really good for, but you've got a little bit more aggressive cam, maybe you upgrade the cylinder head, that's a really good one. Headers, a little bit more compression. You've got to tune these carburetors. You can't blame anything that goes wrong or what you don't like on that carburetor if you haven't taken the time to tune it. So that's what a lot of what we tried to do on this channel is try to give you, all those little details so you can go out and, make these adjustments on your own and hopefully tune your carburetor a little bit better. So, but everything else in that carburetor is the same, when it comes to, the nozzles are the same size. I would have to break these apart. Now, if you look, I think we talked about this in, let me see here if I've got what I'm looking for. Oh, yeah. I do have that here. I try to keep some of this stuff really handy when I do videos because I talk about it a lot. But a couple years ago, maybe, I did a video with a 1406 that was just trashed, and we milled the entire front end of it off layer by layer so we could get down to these ports. Now, what I was really interested in at the time was the diameter of the port from the accelerator pump. There's the accelerator pump there. At the very bottom of that, you can kind of see that little up against this wall here. At the very bottom, you can kind of see that little slot. That's where the fuel is pushed when the accelerator pump goes down. I wanted to see the diameter of that hole and the pathing it took up to here. So when it gets fed into the nozzle, so how much fuel would come out of there. I want to try to do more, add more volume to that. And how to do that is there's a machining plug right there that goes in. When Edelbrock, and again, we did a video on that as well too. When we did a little bit of a tour, of the Sanford, North Carolina facility where Edelbrock makes these, I saw all these being drilled, and my thought is, and I will get to it eventually, is to pull this plug out of a regular production carburetor. They'll all have it. This one is you can see that plug there. Drill that out, and then what I would like to do, put that on there, is take a drill. I know the physical length from there to the point where it stops and it goes up, and drill this well a little bit larger. Will that help me get more fuel through the nozzle? So I will take a 43 nozzle and I will open it up to probably 45, maybe 50, I don't know, and see in those instances where you need a bigger shot of fuel, can you get it from opening that? Here's the problem in that. Accelerator pumps, if this is it's actually a 29 cc, but if this is a 30 cc pump well, when you hit the throttle, okay, and the accelerator pump here goes down, you do not get a 30 cc shot of fuel into the engine. You get a tenth of that. That accelerator pump is rated in how much fuel it delivers in 10 shots. So if it's in the middle hole, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they measure that amount of fuel that comes out of there, that's how many cc's that pump is rated for. So a little bit odd in that it's done that way, but I'm assuming that that's probably a industry standard that perhaps the OEs started or made, whatever the case may be. But you're not getting a 30 cc shot of fuel when you hit the accelerator pump. But can we take that small amount and open it up by opening up that passageway? And that's what we're going to look to try to do. Also, too, you can see the transfer slots, the idle mixture screw slots here. That was a really good video, by the way, but it was so old I didn't have a ton of subscribers and not a lot of folks saw it. Need to clear my throat. Ooh. A little bit of Yingling does that well. So anyway, if you want to look at me milling this down and how all that turned out, it is really a pretty cool deal to see. Kind of. Yes, you can kind of see the idle mixture screw hole and the transfer slot hole. Anyway, I told you I was going to struggle tonight. Let's see if more beer fixes it. All right, let's check the comments over here. Boop, got a couple more. Sorry. AMC 2.5 liter discussion. I kind of dig that. Fox can fix it garage. What's going on, man? 4-inch. That's interesting. Tax on bore size. Have to keep them small. Yeah, I think that's the odd part about folks that live in the U.S. And Jay, I'm assuming you're living over there, but everything over here has always been big cubic inches and big, big liters if you measure them in that way. But certainly, it's always been a challenge for the European and English countries there, or Great Britain, because one, you don't have the amount of real estate that we do to move around in. So having a big, huge honking V8 sometimes doesn't make any sense. But y'all obviously can know how to build a supercar, that's for sure. So, but that's why the big um, cubic inch engines here aren't that big of a deal. And I don't think, I'd have to look and maybe somebody will help me with that. But I don't think we ever did anything like that in the U.S. where big cubic inch engines were taxed differently. They were taxed, I think, based or especially on insurance purposes. The higher the horsepower, in the 70s or so. But and I'm sure that's the way it is today. If you got a Hellcat, I guarantee you're paying or a Corvette, you're probably paying way more in insurance than my Silverado does. But anyway, if you want to see that video on how that all came apart and milling that front of that carburetor down, there's a really fun video to do. But like I said, I only had like maybe 1,000 subscribers at the time or something like that, and nobody really watched it. But it was still fun to do. So anyway, I even totally forgot how I got down that track. Maybe he was talking about accelerator pump, but anyway, that's something I want to do, is take and modify a carburetor and um, see if we can get some more volume out of that. And we tested that as well too. I tested how much cc's came out of there at a time, and I don't remember if we measured it by weight or if we did it by volume. But it's been a few years ago since I did that video as well too. But gosh, it seems like I've done a video for everything so far, but I feel like I'm missing like 500 that I should have already done. So anyway, I'm going to take a look at the comments here. Ed, I've seen you on here before. Welcome back. Motorcraft 4150 for you. Yeah, I think so. Again, the 289 again is a great example of that. I saw a couple or one 289 car tonight at the or this afternoon at the Edelbrock deal, or maybe that was a 351. I can't remember. There was a couple of Mustangs, 69 or 70 maybe. I think that was a Windsor. Anyway, there was a 289 car there. I know I saw it. But yeah, almost universally on a 289, a 500 is just a awesome carburetor for it. You don't need to have a 750 on there or a 600 or 650. It's so much easier to tune when you're not fighting things and you're not metering enough fuel and you're trying to figure out why, and you're changing rods and jets and step up springs and accelerator pump locations, and then you're complaining, damn it, I don't understand why I can't get this thing to tune right. Well, it's just a touch too big for what you're working on. And I love the 289 302 platform. I think it's an awesome little engine. They're certainly a heck of a lot of fun. I've played and tuned with enough of them, never owned one, but certainly have had a lot of fun with them over the years. And almost always I'll use a 500 on them, and man, they are fun. They are a snappy, fun little driver. There's I know some things coming for the small block Ford SEMA time. Got a little bit of wind of that here in the last couple of weeks, but when we do the SEMA videos, I'll try to show you everything that I see out there new product wise. But great little platform, and I love those little cars. It's a bucket list car for me. I'd love to have a 66 or 67 fastback. My mom's first car was a 66 notchback car. So in kind of in tribute to her, I'd love to do a little 289 would be fine, or just cut the towers out and put a big Coyote in it. What the hell? So, let's see here. What else we got? Use tags. Yeah, that's probably right. But the LX and the LX was a hell of a lot of fun. That was a great little car for sure. Was the LX Mustang lighter? Was that what guys loved about it? That it was a little bit lighter car. I'm not a huge Ford guy, but I'm a fan from afar, I guess. But seems like all the guys love the GT, obviously, because it had the badging. But the LX was a little bit lighter car, and maybe it was a little bit easier to build power on. So boards are so close in Rover. Yeah, that's the problem when you got the that's the problem when you got the really tight, um, you know, small boards, as everything's tighter and harder to get to. So, hey, Shop Cat, I can't remember where I see you. Are you on Slant Daily Garage? Do I see you over there on his live streams, or is it just from the regular YouTube content creator type of thing? But either way, I'm glad you're here, man. Always awesome to see you. So it's one of the nice things I like about YouTube. I never really, well, I never plan on talking about this either, but I guess I will. But I didn't ever really think that, creating videos on YouTube, I was starting to, if you look at the really old videos I've done, they were all just for me. Um, they were videos of my um, hair scramble days, I think. And I say videos, it was all images that were just thrown together in a video. Horrible back then. I should take all those down because they're terrible, but I leave them up just because I did it for me. And then I don't know, I just started making videos occasionally that all of a sudden people were reacting to and wanting to watch, and thought, okay, well, if you want content on it, I'll do it. And it's how I kind of got a little bit shoehorned into the Edelbrock carburetor side of things, but it has been a lot of fun to do it. So I'm not complaining. It doesn't, it doesn't pay the bills. I'm not, Mike Finnegan or Vice Grip Garage or any of those other folks that, can earn a living doing this, but I have a lot of fun. And to me, that value is absolutely priceless. It's cool to give you some info on stuff that I know and have done before. And then, experiment with stuff like we did with milling down the carburetor and just all the little details that I've done over the years. So for me, I'm selfishly enjoying it. So if YouTube will allow me to keep uploading videos, I'm going to keep doing it just because I have a heck of a lot of fun. So, da, da, da. Yeah, 283 is another one. That's another hard one, because it's a small bore motor, but we're going to cover some more camshaft profile stuff here. Maybe over the winter. It just depends. I mean, I'm going to cry and complain here for a minute, but it was like 46 or 7 degrees last night here overnight. I know that doesn't sound like a whole heck of a lot, especially if you're in an area. Shop Cat, are you Canadian? Are you up in Alberta or something? I can't remember. Sorry if I'm not trying to insult you. I just couldn't remember. Um, but yeah, I know those folks are laughing at 46 degrees or 10 or 11 degrees Celsius or whatever that converts over to. But I'm a wuss ever since I moved here to the mid South, and I love it. I love being in hotter temperatures. It was 90 degrees until a couple of days ago, and I think we got a lot of days this week in coming up in like the mid 80s. But today was only like 65 degrees. I'm in a freaking parka out here. It was horrible. I'm a wuss. And I love every minute of it. But back to the 289 or 283, I will probably end up doing a video on cam selection here over the winter. I'm still working on and finishing up the final video in the camshaft failure series on. The last video is going to be on lifters. I got some more things over the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to have to cut some things out, re-edit, and add some more content. But I'm trying not to make that video an hour long. I'm trying to keep it under 30 minutes, which I'm telling you is really, really hard to do. But I want to dive deep into that. So if you see anything I've done on the camshaft failure series, I dive deep into it, not sit on a chair and talk about my theory on why camshafts fail, but show you the hard evidence of what's going on. And that's what I want to do with the lifter video as well too. And there's just not a lot of content out there doing that. So I will give you everything you need to know to hopefully make an educated decision or to break in your cam properly, because it can be done. It's just a lot harder, and there's more things that you have to do to get it to break in right. But anyway, we're going to talk about all that sometime. But I've got nothing. The Chevelle that's literally right behind me, when that was a factory car, it had a 283 in it, and I ran it for probably a good year. Now, this was 1988, 89 when I bought that car, but I bet you I drove it around for a year on that 283 before I pulled it out and put a 377-inch stroker motor, small block in it, and a butt ton of nitrous. But I had fun with that 283, and I would build one if the pickup didn't have an engine and I had access to a 283, I would have built a 283 for it, no problem. I just need to build torque and mid-range cruising RPM, and I can do that with a 283. Good cam selection, cylinder head, intake manifold, compression ratio, no problem at all. So Fox can fix it. Fox can build that 283, no problem. I've seen the videos. I think you had videos of tearing that thing down. So very, very cool. I couldn't agree with that more. Step up, see progress or problems. Yeah, I look at past videos and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, why did I? What in the heck was I thinking? And yeah, Tool Junkie, what's going on, man? I appreciate that, and I always do appreciate you being here for sure. Aha! See, my brain cells are working. I've spent a lot of time in Alberta over the years, Shopcat. I've been to Edmonton. I can't tell you how many times. I used to live in Seattle. I know the folks at Mopac Auto Supply, Dick's Performance, or JB's Power Center very well. What was the power sports guy up there in Calgary? Not Drag Specialties, damn it. But anyway, they were all customers of mine, so I visited them quite frequently. So I love Alberta, and I was probably the only one out of my group of peers, as a manufacturer's rep, that traveled to Edmonton, Calgary in February. Why? Because one, y'all respected me for being up there at the coldest part of the year, and two, there was nobody to compete with, so I could schedule an appointment. Yeah, no problem. Come by and see me anytime. And there's 5 hours of daylight every day, but I love Alberta. I love that Calgary, Edmonton corridor. I love the plains up there. I grew up in the plains here in the U.S., so I'm a huge fan. If somebody said today you have to move to Canada, I would move to Alberta. So all good. I'm glad I remembered that. It's funny that you mentioned that. I haven't looked at that in a couple of weeks. What's today's date? Oh, crap. Ooh, we're about a month into that. That carburetor has been sitting in super clean on the 10th of October, it's going to be sitting in that super clean for a month. I'm debating on what to do with it. Do I leave it sit in there and come back to it at a later date? But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to live stream it. And all I've done is pop the lid off a couple of times and kind of tap the bucket and watch all the bubbles come out of that carburetor. So whatever it is, that super clean is continuing to eat away at it and destroy it. So I'm terrified to open it up, but man, I can't wait to open that up. But yeah, I would hope that the cast cam core would handle super clean a little bit better, but you never know. But it's funny that you mentioned that. Like I said, it was probably an hour ago, I booted that bucket to see if there was any bubbles that would pop out of it, and sure as heck, I can't see down far enough in there, but it's eating away at it. So we'll see what it looks like. I wish it was another 30, 60 days down the road because I think I'm going to do it in December for some reason because everything slows down and I just need some entertainment on my own. So I'll bring you along for the ride. We'll see how ugly it looks. Very, very funny. Yeah, mine was from my 67. So it's been a while. I'd love to have a first gen Chevelle. I've kept my eyes open for one over the last couple of years, but um, yeah, I would love to have another 64. I had a 64 uh, just out of high school when I was in the military. My dad and I built that car. It was a drag car, drag only car. Back then, there wasn't really drag or drive. It was either drag or no drag type of deal. And it was completely gutted. And now I wish I would have kept that car just simply because um, you know, having that opportunity to build something that in today's world where you can drag and drive is kind of cool. But I'd love to have another 64. So one of these days, it's on the bucket list. That is good to hear, my friend. Near Edmonton, February's pretty much worse weather. Yeah, when I was in the military, I think I've made mention of this quite a bit over the channel, so it's not like I'm giving away secrets of my life. But I spent from 1990 to almost the year 2000 in the Army, and I spent some time in Alaska doing some extreme cold weather training. That's when I realized I'm not built that way. So that's why I live here in the Memphis area because it's just far enough south that it's warm enough in the wintertime. But the next time I move here, which I don't know when that's going to be, I am moving further south. I got to have it hot. Gross. Yeah. Well, it kind of does. But yeah, I was born on an Air Force base. So all good. So, all right. Well, I guess I got through all the comments. I apologize if I squeezed over yours. So I think we talked about everything I want to talk about on the AVS too. This one, again, I keep getting questions on it, and it's such a great carburetor and a great platform, but it does get a little not confusing, but it's different enough that sometimes people have questions on it. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight was this carburetor. So when I say this is a rare carburetor, it's not like it's a 101 or we only made 100 of them or whatever, but it's old enough that if y'all been on the channel long enough, you know that anytime we've talked about flathead hardware out of the air horn assembly down to the main body, that we know that this is at least older than 2001. Older than 2001. This is a 600 CFM carburetor, and I already removed the hardware out of the top, but I haven't disconnected anything else. I figured I'd do it live. We've talked about this before, that you've got this oddball little port on the side. If you look at this AVS2, the boss is there for it, but it's not drilled for it. We've talked about this on the 1400. I think we did a teardown, maybe a short video on that. It's more of an emissions carburetor. Edelbrock, obviously, was stationed or home based out of Southern California, and so they have a lot of carburetors. A lot of their supercharger kits are EO certified and carb approved for California. That was a big deal to Vic when he was alive, that he wanted that ability to sell superchargers to cars in California because that was his home base. He grew up there essentially, lived his entire life and died there. But he wanted those to have EO approval. And Edelbrock, I still think, does that today, where if they come out with a new supercharger, I think they try to get the EO approval for them fairly quickly. It is got a bit of a downfall, though, with the supercharger program, because everybody thinks that the Edelbrock supercharger doesn't produce any power. it produces tons of power. But when you put a carb EO number on it, you limit that. But trust me, Edelbrock's got a crate engine, 1100 horsepower LS that is an RHS blocked Edelbrock cylinder head, Edelbrock supercharger, custom comp cam, Luminati rotating assembly that runs on pump gas. That is 1,100 horsepower on pump gas. That supercharger is fine. There's nothing wrong with the Edelbrock superchargers. They can produce a ton of power. They just have to get out of that factory tune. So anyway, neither here nor there. I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but anyway, that's what this carburetor was designed for, was to be a emissions compliant type of carburetor. So they don't offer calibration kits for the 1400. This is not a 1400, by the way. This is the EGR plug-in, so you had to have that. A couple little variants in how the choke is metered and all that. And it's supposed to be a 600 for a 350 cubic inch type of engine that will fit all sorts of things and good to go. Well, what is this carburetor that? Well, I'm going to tell you after I grab another beer, because that's what professional YouTubers do, is they drag this out and make you wait, right? So let's look at the comments. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah, grab a beer. All right, money shot time. This, let me see if I can get this. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I think I muted the mic. It said I did, so sorry about that. Anyway, don't know where I lost you, but anyway, I guess you can kind of see that. There's the part number of that carburetor. There's the date code. That carburetor says 1408. What the heck is a 1408? Hopefully the audio is back. It says it is, so hopefully that doesn't sorry about the little delay there. Again, I'm a professional YouTuber. I'm really good at this. But yeah, obviously those are all lies. So that was me hitting the mic, and for whatever reason, this is a 1408 carburetor. The date code on this is a 1413, which tells me that this is a 1993 carburetor. It was made in 1993. 141st day. Somebody can do the Google and see when that was actually produced. As long as it's a Monday through Friday, you know that this was actually the date code and that I had that correctly. It's a nice, easy way of checking date codes. But anyway, 1408. What is a 1408? Same thing. It is a 600 CFM carburetor. This was the prototype of the 1400. I say prototype. They made it from 1988, 89 up until sometime, I think, in 93. I looked back at old Edelbrock catalogs that I had, and in the 1994 Edelbrock catalog, this carburetor wasn't listed. So I guess that they discontinued it for whatever reason. I talked to the product manager at Edelbrock a few weeks ago when I got this carburetor to ask him about it, and he didn't know. The folks in Sanford, since I've got contact with them now as well, they knew about it, but he couldn't tell me what the dates were. But he said, that's an old carburetor. And I said, yeah, it's very old. And I gave him the date code and told him what date I thought it was. He said, yep, you're exactly right there. But this is probably one of the last ones, or That's probably mid-year, 141st day. Was it 141st? Yeah, 141st day. So anyway, it's a carburetor that occasionally, if you want to stump your friends on it or stump some joker on the internet and go, yeah, I got a 1408 carburetor and I just want to know, can I change rods and jets in it? Do all the rods and jets fit from the other 600s? And somebody's going to come back correct you. Hey, buddy, I think you mean that's a 1406. Are you sure? They didn't make a 1408. Well, they did. This happens to be it right here. So anyway, I haven't popped it open yet, but I took all the hardware out of the air horn. And I'm going to pop the retaining clips out of here. And all of the emissions carburetors, I say all of them, the two that have been in production ever have been the 1408 and 1400. They were both electric choke carburetors because these were designed to be factory replacement carburetors. So that's a clip that's gone forever. Anyway, I haven't had this open yet, so I just wanted to see what it looks like on the inside. See how bad it is. Ooh. Well, she's a little sticky. Let's see if I can break her loose here without destroying everything. Sometimes you got to get a little medieval on this. And please don't do this at home. Yeah, a little crusty. Ugh. Yee. Okay. Well, you heard by the noise that it made that was on there for quite a while. Doesn't surprise me again. This carburetor was made in 1993, but let's spring out of there. Yeah, everything's kind of crusty in there. Yeah, I thought there was more than that. Got a little bit of dirt in there. Anyway, it doesn't look too bad in there. Honestly, I could probably clean this up and rebuild it. Let me see what it looks like. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep it for, yeah. So they use a smaller nozzle in the emissions carburetors. If I can get the jets out, it'll be rebuildable. But kind of an interesting deal. Everything else is pretty much the same on the inside. All they did was take that old Carter tooling because back at the time in 1993, this carburetor was produced by Carter in that configuration. They had the tooling for it, and then when Edelbrock purchased it or bought that license to do that from them at the time, it turned into interesting. Well, it's been rebuilt at some time. They didn't have the Viton tip stuff in there. You can see it's orange on that one. Usually they're black nowadays. But I haven't torn into one of these in 10 years probably, maybe more. So I very rarely see them. So that's what I meant by being a rare carburetor. It's not that it's a, some really oddball deal, but when you only make them for 4 years, 5 years, however long the production run was on them, and it's that long ago, they are a little rare. So it's one of the cool things. Edelbrock showed me the markings on here. Don't know if you can see that, but this tells me it was made in May of 1993. So my assessment on that being a 1993 carburetor tells me exactly they date coded these back then. So very, very cool. There's the little check valve that's actuated by the carburetor to feed the EGR. So you just kind of see down in there. It's just a very, very simple little deal, and out goes the exhaust or the gases and fumes from the carburetor to get it back in there. So just a cool little deal. I thought I would show that to you. Let's see here. Let's look back at Mopar Nut. What's going on? It's good to see you. I saw some beautiful Mopars today at the Edelbrock deal. There was a really clean Duster. I think they're on. I think that those pictures are on Instagram. If they're not, I'll throw them up there. If you're on IG, run over there sometime and you can take a look at it. But large cast in carbon. Yeah, this one looks like it's sat for a while, but I it's not bad. This just looks like dirt. Oh yeah. Here's the interesting thing: is the bottom side. Hell, that looks better than probably that 1906 does. It's very, very clean, meaning the gasket surface is nice and shiny, not all marred up and stuck. So I think this carburetor is going to clean up okay. And maybe I'll do that. I'll just learn how to put it on a carburetor stand first. I think what I'll do is just clean it up and use it for, if I ever need to. Ooh, that's loose. Or you never know. Maybe we'll use it on the channel again for something. I don't know. But all the hardware is pretty consistent with what it is today. So, yeah. We can measure the booster size as well, too, since that's a known dimension on the bottom side bore. We did that last week with the Chinese carb review to see how off those were. But yeah, I mean, all things considered, you get the secondaries out. I'm curious to see if the weighted air valve has a different part number in it that I'm not used to. And I'm going to assume that it probably doesn't. I think it's probably going to be the same. I don't think that would have changed over the years, but that's why tearing it apart here is kind of cool, because we can see if it is. So, yeah, just a standard old booster. And it's interesting. We've talked about that in the past, that all Edelbrock boosters are numbered. And it looks like it's got one on there, but my old eyes can't see it. So at least it's on there. So anyway, I'm sure they part numbered back then as well, too. So I think that was I've torn apart really old Carter Comp Series carburetors, and they've all had it in there from the early 80s. So filthy, but all right. Let's see what that weighted air valve is. Well, it's a different part number, so it's a different number than the I guess you can see that. It's a 221-70. Remember, this was a 1406, and it's a 221-45. That's a 70. So I'll have to measure that, weigh it, and see. Well, you know what? Aha! Look at that. I just remembered throwing that back in there a couple of days ago. Oh. Alrighty then. Should still be in grams. Let's see here. It's grams. So this is the 1406. It's at 132.5. Somebody remember that. 132.5. 121.6. Much lighter. Much lighter. So it's going to open up the secondaries a little bit quicker. That's interesting. I'm glad I've got this now. Because it adds a part number to what I don't have written down anywhere. And again, I've got on the website, on the Muscle Car Solution Carbs website. I have a chart with not these on there. I'm probably going to add it at some point, but with all the part numbers of all the boosters, and then all the indication marks on the rods and jets, so you can have them, so you can verify what they are. They're free downloads. I don't charge for any of that crap, but it's a new number for me, so very, very cool. So, but it's in good shape, so I think it looks a little filthy in there, but who knows how long this thing's been sitting. So, but it does look pretty clean on the inside. I think it should. Well, like I said, if I can get the jets out, it should clean up. So, all right, let's see here. Let me see. Another plus AVS 2 is cold starts, no pumping. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Bit harder, longer crank. Yeah, hot starts are a pain anyway, just simply because of the, most of the time, the rest of the country or anyone with a hot start issue is usually because the fuel is boiled out of the carburetor, out of the bowls. And that's a case of the ethanol. Like I said, I think I've made mention of this a million times, but I'm at sea level or just a little bit above, about less than 500 feet above sea level, and ethanol boils at like 173 degrees. So you do the math and figure out what your engine operates at and how cool or how hot it runs. And most of the time they run at least 180. And then when you go drive somewhere, shut the engine off, and this carb sits there, if it's bolted directly in aluminum intake, the heat radiates through aluminum really easy. And it could be very easily 200 degrees inside that carburetor. Well, if ethanol boils at $1.73, what's that poor ethanol doing in there in that carburetor? So it's why the hard start issues happen because of that, or hot start issues. So sucks. Doesn't matter what anybody tells you or what you read online. Ethanol is not a good additive for fuel. It's just not. It's not good for the engine. It's not good for the drivability. It's not good for the carburetor or even the fuel injection side of things. It's certainly not good for the longevity. It's definitely not good for the oil. Oil is mostly breaks down because of two things: dirt and fuel. Once those two things are introduced to an engine oil, they break down the additives very quickly. And alcohol kills additives within an engine oil super quick. So, Rochester copy the Carter Edelbrock accelerator pump design. That's a good question. I don't know. I think probably if it was going to happen, the Carters have been around for an awful long time, but so is Rochester as well too. So what I would guess is, I don't know if it was so much of a copy, but maybe how they all were using that accelerator pump at the time, that it was that type of deal. Now some of them used a leather cup, which are horrible, especially in today's fuel. Alcohol will eat through those in a heartbeat. But that's a good question. I don't know. I've never had that, never thought about that, or never had it asked to me. So I don't know. That's what I'd have to think about. Or maybe I ask some Quadrajet guys, and they were Rochester guys, and they'll probably tell you, Carter copied everything we did. We were first on everything. But everybody always says that about their own love, I guess. Oh, thank goodness for that beer tonight. Audio's fine. Thank you there, Dave. Yeah, I think I will rebuild it. I'm pretty certain. Yeah, here's the issue with this carburetor. The biggest reason why Edelbrock kicks these out of their warranty. Let me rephrase that. Any modification to this carburetor will get this carburetor kicked out of warranty. But the reason why they don't rebuild a lot of these carburetors is because folks drill that that hole out right there, that is the hole that almost everyone modifies. Now, some people will cut the top part of it off, but after spending countless numbers of hours with the Edelbrock warranty folks, and that's a little trick of the trade there, how I get a lot of things that I've gotten in the last 5, 10 years of doing this type of content or doing any type of training on this carburetor. It's because when you're friends with the folks that see all the garbage, sometimes they'll give it to you and let you play with it. So not where this one, this 1408 didn't come from them. But anyway, when you drill that hole, they can't rebuild it because it has to be the same physical size that they use for everything. So if this is drilled out, it's junk. If any of the ears are broken off on the mounting pads, it's junk. If you cut this off, it's junk. So a lot of times when I get carburetors from them to use for video purposes, it's stuff that they can't use. So it's kind of a cool deal. I'm that way with a couple of manufacturers, and that's why the camshaft video was difficult to do, but I was able to get some failed stuff because I'm good friends with machine shops and some engine builders that do a lot of volume and that stuff. So I wanted examples of failed flat tappet camshafts. I just made calls and told them I'd pay the freight and I'd buy them a beer next time I saw them, and no problem, they'd send them. So I don't know where I was going with that, but that was a hell of a lot of information that no one asked for. So rebuild it. I'd love to see it. Me too, Mopar Nut. I think I'm going to try. Yeah. Block might be difficult unless it's some of the maybe the sport compact stuff. Now, I talked about this on a live stream, maybe, it's been a while ago, but I'll give you a little bit of an insight on Chinese made stuff. I've been to China. I've been twice. Both times was on behalf of a manufacturer who wanted some expertise in looking to source product from overseas. And let me see if I can find some examples of something. Well, I can't, but I can. Let's do this. Give you a little bit of an insight on stuff made in China. Okay. If you go to China and say, hey, I want you to build me this fuel pump or this fuel filter. That's the way I want it packaged. That's the design. That's how I want it to look. I want it to be 40 microns and that's it. When you go over there, after you give them time to make whatever you're making, I swear to God, this is what happened at every single stop that I made over there. And it's not like I made hundreds, but this is exactly what happened. After you spend an hour or so getting to know each other because they don't like to do business right away, they like to have a personal relationship. Swear to God, what will happen is they will come back. Let me lower the camera a little bit more. And again, I've talked about this before, but it's good to go over. They will lay out 3 of those filters. I don't know where the heck that came from. They will lay out 3 of those filters. Hopefully you can see those okay. I think it's kind of washed out on the laptop. Whatever, you get the idea. They will tell you that here are 3 samples of what you want built. This one is the highest quality fuel filter that we can make. Literally, pitch by pitch, every single manufacturer that I talked to was almost it was terrifying how eerily the same this was. This is the highest quality fuel filter we can make. We will test this up against anything in the world and guarantee that we'll be as good as or better than they are at filtering fuel, at the micron rating, at not a lot of pressure drop as the fuel goes through there. This is the highest quality, but it's the most expensive part we can make for you. Cool. And they'll give you a second one. Say, this one is a really, really good filter. It does most everything you need it to do. It still filters at 40 microns. We've had to cut a little bit of cost out of there, but what it did is it allowed us to get down a little bit less money than this high end, really top of the line piece. But it's a really good filter. You will not have any issues with it. Then they will grab the third one, and they don't say this, but literally, this is how it translates. This is the cheapest piece of crap that we can make and still call it a filter. Literally. I swear to God, that is exactly how those conversations goes. This is the cheapest piece of junk we make. It's the lowest quality, but it's the cheapest landed cost for you into the US. You tell us which one you want us to produce. Now, if you're an importer in the US and you are importing in these filters from China, which one do you think that they're going to take? Let's say that all these filters, I'm going to use some bad examples here, so don't hold me to this, but let's say that all these filters are going to retail for $10. You want to retail whatever filter you chose for $10. And let's say this one costs you $6 landed. Great, you make $4 every filter. No problem. This one, let's say it's $3.50 landed cost. So great, I make a lot more margin in that. This one may only cost you $1. What do you think the importers choose 99 times out of 100? If they don't choose that one, I can tell you right now, they don't. There are some instances where you will find overseas product that they will do that. The Chinese are absolutely capable of building that product, 100% hands down. 99 times out of 100, that importer is going to say, give me that biggest piece of crap you can build me. The reason being is if 1 out of 100 of these fail and a customer calls and says, this filter was crap, you need to send me another one. No problem. They're the manufacturer at that point. They don't go back to China and go, hey, you need to replace this filter. Whoever imported it in is the owner of that part. They'll go, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll send you one. Good. You should be good to go. No problem. Sorry about that. They make more money on the cheapest piece of crap that they can make. And so it makes it easier for them because, like I said, once they're landed here in the US, they have ownership of it. They don't have a lot of return policy. You're not going to put it on another slow boat back to China. It makes no sense to do that. That's the reason why most of the Chinese crap that you see on the market today is because the importer decided to choose the cheapest piece of shit that they could get their hands on. Hands down, period, end of story. I wouldn't have believed that they were capable of this until two things. One, I saw it on the marketplace where there's some good Chinese equivalent type of product of things that are on the marketplace that tested out really, really, really well. The cost is a little bit higher. They don't make as much money selling that, but it's possible to purchase that from China. Most of the time, they're buying that biggest piece of junk possible. I told you when I guess I didn't tell you, but it's in the bio of this doggone channel. I've been in this industry for a very, very long time. I'm going to retire not anytime soon, but I can see the sunlight at the end of the tunnel. And I have seen this over and over and over again and had conversations with those manufacturers. Now that I can't get this on my hook anymore. But that's I can't make that any simpler. That's the easiest analogy that I have of it. And it is very, very, very factual. Very, very true. Almost every single time that importer is going to choose that biggest piece of junk. So, Jay, sorry, again, I'm dragging on, giving you way more information than you asked for. That Chinese copy might be really, really good if you sourced it with product that somebody went over and said, yeah, give me the highest quality thing. I'll just make less money on it, but I will go to market with something that's way more higher quality. Move the camera. Sorry about this, guys. So it's possible that that engine of everything made from China might be really well. It might work extremely well. So anyway, that's information that again, you're not going to hear that everywhere else. But again, I've been there. I made 2 trips. I lived in the Seattle area. That's a very short flight, relatively speaking, because there's no connections to make out of Seattle directly into China. I've done it quite a bit over the years. I don't plan on anything at this point in my career going back there, but I have enough inside information and knowing that and seeing it directly firsthand. That's what happens. That's how they present it to you. And seeing what comes back on the marketplace, I know it's the cheapest piece of crap that importer wanted to purchase because they make more money on it. And I don't blame them for that. Every manufacturer needs to make money. In this case, they do it the wrong way. So how's that for some detail? So I apologize for that. I went on a little bit of a, not a rant, but anyway. Da, 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 da. Let's see. Yeah, transnet spacer. Yeah, if it's a heat blocking spacer for sure. That's what a good wood laminate or phenolic plastic spacer does. It's awesome. Yep, yep, yep. Yep. Tool Junkies nailed it, just like you both have. You're absolutely right. 1-inch small. Ed, thoughts on small electric booster pump back of the tank? I usually don't recommend that. There's a couple of reasons for that. I understand the thought in it that if the bowls are drained, then and it's the car sat for a week, and I just want to get it and drive. You don't want to crank and crank and crank and crank to get enough fuel up there. The easiest thing to do is to not. That's probably easier, but that lift pump type of deal, as the diesel guys would call it, um, potentially it could work, but I think the thing you would have to have is something pretty expensive, pretty sophisticated, because I'd like to see a return line off of it. You could do a tank to carburetor as kind of a lift type of pump or a booster type of pump to get fuel up to the carburetor, but I'd want to see a return line to send it all back to the tank. And you could hit a switch and turn it on for 5 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever, and get the fuel bowls filled back up or get the lines filled more back up to where it doesn't cost you any time and you can get it, hit the key and go. But I would much rather just add fuel, down through the vents of the carburetor with a little squeeze jug or whatever, and fill up the bowls that way. I do that frequently. The GMC truck has not run in probably a month, and I guarantee you the fuel's gone out of it. Just alcohol evaporates, so I will just squirt some fuel down in the vent here and just fill up both bowls, and it'll fire right off. So Mopar nut heat pump cold starts cards. Yep, absolutely it could. Like I said, I would just put a return line on it. You'd be good. Tools are the same way. I think we're talking about Chinese stuff. Yeah, you're 100% right. You can buy an offshore Chinese tool, and yeah, sometimes it'll be really good. Other times it'll be, a Plu's tool or whatever that garbage is. So, small boost pump for mechanical pump, Chuck Weber. Yeah, I mean, I could see it having no issues. Again, my thought would be I would run a return line on just more for peace of mind's sake, whatever. Well, I will tell you, corporate greed is probably a big part of it. What really has killed the manufacturing in the U.S. is all of us. It's all of us. When you don't go to Walmart or Target or Best Buy or whatever and buy a TV because it's $500. TV is a bad example, I know, but I'm going to use it anyway for the hell of it. You don't buy a TV for $500, and everybody's got that same exact TV on sale for $500, $499, whatever. But all of a sudden, outside of a normal time of the year or time frame or something, somebody goes, I don't need to make a ton of money out of it. I just want to drive people into the store. I'm going to sell it for 450 and advertise it for that, and hopefully you'll come in and buy the TV stand or the wall hanger or the smart remote or whatever the case may be that they're trying to do as an add-on sale, and I'll make that money up with the add-on. The consumers have driven a lot of that because we've demanded cheaper and cheaper products, and it's hard to as a manufacturer, it's hard to produce something made in the U.S., pay all your employees in that supply chain and the manufacturing chain within an organization, pay them all a good wage to do the good work that they do, engineers, manufacturing staff, sales staff, whatever the case may be, when all of a sudden it's like, damn it, I can't make this Edelbrock carburetor. It's $430 retail. This cheap Chinese knockoff's $185. How do I compete against that? I guess I'll just source the same shit from China as well too. And I apologize for the swearing. And you know, drive the price down so I can make a little bit of money and still get down to the price. It's been a race to the bottom. I use this analogy quite frequently within the industry of people that I talk to. When I came on board in the late 80s, mid 80s, I guess, early 80s, and started looking at the automotive aftermarket from the business side of things. Summit wasn't a household name. Nobody had heard of Summit. And then they started coming out with the little magazine flyer or ads or whatever. Because they weren't a two-step distribution model, and I don't want to bore you with too many details, but because they didn't operate in that 2 or 3-step channel, they bought product directly from a manufacturer and then sold it directly to a consumer. What happened is now they had a wide spread of margin that they could deal with. And since they were going directly from the supplier directly to the retail public, they could lower the retail price. Now, the way that model used to work, again, I apologize for boring you, is a manufacturer produced the products. They didn't sell anything. No, hardly any manufacturer sold direct to the consumer back in the day. What they did is they sold it to a warehouse distributor. The warehouse distributor then had either warehouses or feeder warehouses in different parts regionally around the country. There's quite a few of them, actually. There used to be quite a few of them in the automotive aftermarket. Some of them have died out. There's been some new ones pop up. But then what they would do is they would purchase it from the manufacturer. That had a cost to it. Their acquisition cost, now they would sell to the retailer being the speed shop, the installer, truck accessory store, I guess, was kind of coming along lines at that point. So that those steps in distribution, and then the retailer would sell to you, the consumer. Well, you had to have enough margin and dollar margins between sale cost that the manufacturer would sell it for and what the retail price was, what the retailer would sell it for. That two-step distribution model, or three-step, what some people call it, doesn't really matter, all got turned upside down on its head when now all of a Summit came along, and now they're buying directly from a manufacturer. They're not buying it from a wholesale distributor. They're selling it directly to the public. They can knock that regular retailer's price down in a heartbeat. And they did. And that's why Summit grew and exploded as big as they did. And Jags and Speedway and some of those others that are out there. Can't think of some of the other ones that are long gone, but that's a big reason why that price has gone down. Now, I don't blame Summit. I don't blame us, the consumer, purchasing it, but I certainly understand the reason why manufacturers have said, screw it, I can't do it anymore. I can't make that carburetor in the USA. I'm just going to go offshore with it. I just can't help it anymore. I have to stay in business. I want to keep making money. I want my employees to be fat, drunk, and happy. I'm having to scale them down because I'm not going to be able to make as much stuff in the US. I'll just buy as much as I can from offshore, and that's the way it's going to be. So unfortunately, in the automotive aftermarket, that catalyst to make all those changes started with the late 80s with Summit and Jegs and those mail order companies. Damn it, what was that one out of Phoenix? What was that mail order place out of Phoenix? All pretty much the same. Some of them bought still through distribution, but for the most part, Summit and Jigs is always purchased directly from the manufacturer. And some back in the day, because I worked in that environment with a warehouse distributor in Kansas City that's long been gone. Um, um, they wouldn't sell to Summit. They would not sell Summit any products. So even if Summit was going to sell it retail wise, but they knew they weren't going to make a lot of money on it, they would still purchase it for whatever wholesale price that the WD had it for, the wholesale distribution channel had it for, and knowing they would lose a little bit of money, but it would still make their customer happy. They could still get it from me, and then they would buy all the other stuff they could and make up their margin that way. And I'm not blaming it all on Summit, but again, as consumers, we've demanded cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper and cheaper prices, and that's what we've gotten from it. Is manufacturing has gone away because you can't afford to give away all of your profit when you're trying to invest in better machinery, in more engineers, in new product development, in R&D time, and testing and failures and all that. You can't do that if your margins suck. So I think corporate greed has a little bit to do with it, but I think more just because I've been fortunate enough to see that happen over the years that it's big part of it's us. So, boy, how's that for a shot of insider trading that you weren't prepared for? I've told that story before. I've told that many times, so I don't feel like it's that big of a deal. It's a big of a secret. You could probably talk to anybody in the industry and they would tell you probably pretty close to the same, but I look at it as that was the trigger point when you had retailers that were buying directly from a manufacturer at volume, and the manufacturer said, you know what, they're buying almost the same amount as the WD is going to buy it for. I don't care what the retail price is. I'm still selling it for the same amount, whether it's going to this wholesale distribution guy or whether it's going to that retailer. I'm still making the margin I need to make until the price started dropping. And then all these other guys in the channel said, hey, you need to drop your price, Mr. Manufacturer. I need to buy it cheaper. And they did. And we're at where we're at today. So inside baseball. Sorry about that. But maybe it'll give you a little bit of Sorry. I didn't mean to go off on that rant, or hopefully that wasn't a rant. Hopefully it just Princess Auto. I like Princess Auto. No, not Princess Auto. Canadian Tire. For you Americans that have never been into a Canadian Tire, I am here to tell you that is Walmart on steroids. I like Canadian Tire. I wish we had one down here. But yeah, Princess Auto. Just kind of flipping or reading through some of your comments here. I don't mean to ignore you, but I know some of y'all are having conversations outside of what we're talking about, so I'm just trying to grab things here and there. So I'm not trying to ignore anybody there. Something similar, they call it A or A. Yeah, I mean, they probably, I'm sure they've got a different name for it. Here's one thing too. Yeah, I'll tell you. If you go on the SEMA.org website, and you can, everyone I think has heard of SEMA. You've seen my SEMA videos probably every year that I do. It's not a car show, it's an industry trade show. But with that industry trade show, SEMA also puts on education type seminars and programs. It always happens on sometimes Sunday, most of the day on Monday, and then occasionally spread out through the show dates. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they will have education seminars. One of the really good ones that happens on Mondays, they'll usually do 2 international. So like one year, it may be the Australians will be part the international deal, and they'll meet for an hour and a half, and the Australians will be on a panel, and they'll discuss the challenges of doing business in Australia. The exchange rate is very high, the inflation is very high, the cost of goods and living over there is very high. So you may buy this Edelbrock carburetor in the U.S. for $450. It's probably $6 or $650 in Australia. And most manufacturers and folks that are trying to do business in Australia don't know that until they hear it directly from them first. But one of those seminars may be with the Australians. One of them may be from the Central and South American countries. So that's always good. The Spanish-speaking companies down or countries down there, that's always a good one because performance is a big market down there. Four-wheel drive and off-road is a huge market down there. And there's some really good retailers down there. But every now and then they will have the same type of panel with folks from China, and it's the same thing. They will talk about the challenges that they have, and you'll get a little bit different perspective on it. So I've made some contacts over there before sitting in those seminars, and things that like your Chinese neighbor told you, yeah, they've got different names for everything, but it's really cool to speak to somebody from another country that also can speak English. Because God knows I can't speak Mandarin or any other variant of Chinese, but they speak English fairly well, so it's kind of cool. I speak a tiny bit of Spanish, but I really speak Australian when they want to talk beer. So they're a heck of a lot of fun to party with there at SEMA during the show. So again, I'm going down rabbit holes. I don't mean to do here, but whatever. You guys got some info that no one else has heard before, or no one else should hear, I guess. Casey Lira wood spacer. I love the wood laminate spacer. I use it probably. If you were to say, hey, I need you to work on my car, I need to fix this, I will always try to push you towards the wood laminate spacer because I think it does a better job. The problem with the wood laminate spacer is the cost. They're a lot more money than a phenolic plastic, and the black phenolic plastic. I've got no raw data on it. It just feels like the wood laminate does a better job. So that's just seat of the pants tuning for me. Doesn't mean anything, but the black phenolic. I've got a wood laminate on the truck right now, I think. Or maybe I do have a. No, it's got a wood laminate spacer on there, but I'd have no problems putting a black phenolic plastic one on there. No fine, but I prefer the wood laminate if you can afford it. So, hey, if you guys aren't following old BPAT here, I told you earlier in this live stream that I'm a big first gen Mustang guy. He's got a nice one, so you guys want some cool content to watch, go check out some of his videos on his cool Mustang. He's got an Edelbrock carburetor on there, and I think you had issues with something with that carburetor, and did I send you something, or did Edelbrock send you something? I don't remember, but anyway, if you want something to watch on for you Mustang folks, it's a small block. Is it a manual car? Man, I can't remember. But anyway, I can't remember what I had for lunch today. So, yep, we live there, Gainsome. Glad you're here. I think you need to tune the YouTube bogs full throttle. Okay. Bogging at full throttle, a couple of different things. Typically, when somebody says they've got a bog at wide open throttle, typically it's from a partial throttle situation to then going wide open throttle. Sometimes it's really off of a very close off idle and then wide open throttle. A lot of things you can check. And I know these tend to sound a little bit crazy at first, but I always check timing first. What's your ignition timing set at? And I usually get, well, it doesn't matter. I'm talking about my carburetor. It does. Timing, you have to tune fuel and spark at the same time. So if we start with timing, sometimes it starts to make those problems smaller. So when we go to the timing route or tuning route with the carburetor, it gets a little bit easier. And timing's not static. You don't set it and then never come back to it. My truck's a great example. I did get mostly through tuning the 650 on it before I had an issue that I had to take the transmission back out of again. Um, but I set it at 12 degrees initial. Um, and then I think I went to 14, 13 or 14. But when it was all dialed back in, I think I scaled it back to now like 13 degrees, 12 back to 12 degrees maybe before top dead center. So you're going to adjust timing back and forth as soon as you start doing carburetor tuning. You're just trying to find the sweet spot and everything. Bog or hesitation. Next thing is a step up spring. That's why the calibration kit is so important to purchase, so you can make sure you get the closest step up spring to it. And then once you've got it based on engine idle vacuum, then you can start changing the springs and using different springs for that carburetor. You don't sometimes don't stick with one spring choice. It's not like you measure your vacuum at idle and then say, okay, I need the silver spring in there. Sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes you may go back to it and go, you know what, I've done this, this, and this. I need to delay the fuel coming in a little bit longer. So you put a different spring in it. Or I need a little bit quicker. So you put a different spring in it. So it's always going to, you're going to make changes multiple times. It's why tuning takes so long. That's why I always will say get an AFR gauge or use an AFR gauge to tune if you can, because it shortens up this process very, very quickly. You don't do any seat of the pants type tuning. You do more of what the output on the AFR is telling you. So those are two things that I usually check right away. And then I go right into the tuning chart. You can go into the accelerator pump. That's an easy one because it's not a lot of, you don't have to buy anything with that. So usually it's timing, then right to accelerator pump. If it's a 600 or a 500, the accelerator pump is always in the rod is always in the middle. If it's an 800, or the larger carburetors, they will already be in the top hole. So there's not much you can do about it, but I will tell you to drop down to the middle hole. Does it get noticeably worse? Then probably it would get better if you had a better shot of fuel. And that's when the step up spring and everything else comes in. So those are usually places where I start there, gain some. I hope that kind of helps you a little bit. Again, I wish I had more time, but I will go through that process pretty in depth when the GMC is back running and I've got time to do more videos. So I will show that to you step by step on how I do it. And you will see me out there with a timing light fairly frequently, because every time I make an adjustment here and it gets better, I may add more timing. I may take some timing away. It's a balance and it takes a little while to get there. But then I'll also show it to you with an AFR and how we can do it in an afternoon. Whereas seat of the pants tuning with a carburetor, to get it as close as you can without verifying it takes some time. A long weekend, you could get there. So I hope that helped you, my friend. Generation ago, college to get a skill to kill the friend. Yeah, I will tell you that talking to some of the folks today at Edelbrock and some other manufacturing. Oops, sorry, I just kicked you. Throughout the country, they're having more and more difficulty. There's more people retiring than there are coming into the workforce. That's why I always tell folks that if you have an opportunity to support your local high school tech programs, I think they call it STEM these days, is more what they're, because a VOTEC is a dirty word for whatever reason. And I think they've all called them career tech or career technology or whatever that is, where it teaches them more hands-on type stuff, whether it's welding, whether it's construction, whether it's automotive. Those are big programs. So if you're in a position to support them, go support those kids, whether it's with monetary funds, whether it's with getting them some resources they need. Those instructors are usually pretty good about telling you what they need. And I love doing that. I've done that for 20 years now. I started at my alma mater back in Kansas City. And Have done it everywhere I've been since, and I do it here now too. So we've got a really cool one here locally that all the high school kids they bus them in, and they bus them back to the high school, so they're there in that VOTEC program an hour and a half a day. So it's really kind of a cool deal. So man, been on my soapbox all night long talking about stuff. I apologize for that. Hopefully, I'm not boring everybody to death. All right, let's back to the comments after I get another shot of my beer here. But I agree there, Fox can fix it. Yeah, I mean, if we all paid a little bit more, it would be a good thing. But I understand trying to save money. I'm not opposed to it. So, no one paying for expect service. Yeah, I agree too. I'm very okay with paying a little bit more money if I know that the service after the sale or the support after the sale is a big thing. So I like gravitating towards manufacturers that are very, very good with that. Decent tools, raised price for sap on. Boy, you ain't lying. I got a friend that's a mechanic back in Kansas City, and he and I talk quite frequently. I was supposed to make a trip up there this weekend, but I couldn't get away to do it. And he's a mechanic, and he buys a lot of Matco tools. I think it's the same as Snap-on prices, but the amount of money that he spends on some things, oh, good Lord, I couldn't do that. I got a toolbox here mostly full of Craftsman tools, but good God, those were all from the Sears days when Sears still sold that stuff. But oh my goodness, those guys pay a lot of money. It's crazy. Let's see. Like I said, I'm trying to skim through this, so I apologize if I miss a comment, your question you're asking. So, no change. Part defect, part my fault. Yeah, that's a hard part too. I mean, getting somebody to stand behind a warranty. It's one of the reasons why, like, where does Edelbrock get all the carburetors that they do for their Reman series? It's not that they have a bunch of carburetors that they built and then they didn't work, and so they had to remanufacture them. It's they come from the chain stores, and a lot of those chain stores, not going to pick on any of them, but I'll mention all of them: Zone, O'Reilly, Pep Boys. They all have a no questions asked guarantee. So if you buy a 1406 off the shelf and you realize it didn't work or didn't fix what you needed to fix, you actually had an ignition problem, they'll return the carburetor. Hey, this thing doesn't work. It's a piece of junk. The guy at O'Reilly's doesn't say, let's figure out what your actual problem is. They'll say, yes, sir. I'll take that back. I'll give you full credit. So that's why Edelbrock has a reman program, is because they have to take it back from the retailer. They lose a ton of money on it, and they try to remanufacture to recover anything out of it. So it's a vicious circle. The retail world's a tough place to live. I'm glad I don't work retail. I would get booted out of there. So, let's see. Customer service is almost non-existent. Yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher. That's for sure. Tougher and tougher. I guess I'm way behind here on comments. I'm sorry about that. Hey, I appreciate that, buddy. No, I'm glad that I was able to help you. I don't remember how that conversation went. If it was, I just know that you got the things that you needed, and dude, trust me, that makes me so happy when I can do that. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. So thank you, Tool Junkie. Again, I certainly do appreciate that. You've been very kind over the years, so thank you very much. Yeah, possibly. I haven't been to Australia in quite a few years, but next time I'm down there, I'm going to tell them. And those folks, that's all they do is burnouts down there. My God, that country loves burnouts. Yep, you may do it. Anybody on the live stream from Australia? Because y'all are crazy, but I love you folks dearly. If somebody said you could move anywhere in the world, Australia might be my first choice. They are crazy down there, and I cannot wait to get back down there. But boy, is it expensive. What about taper spacers send fuel to the front of the carburetor? Um, I don't quite know how to respond to that. You mean to angle the carburetor down so it sends it more to the front? Um, I guess I don't. I'm not. And again, I apologize. I'm flying through the comments here, so shame on me for not keeping up. So if there's a better way of asking that or clarify for my for my stupidity and not reading all the comments. All right. What was this under? No problems with heat. So yeah, the 4-hole, as long as it's like a, like I say, plastic, yeah, you're good to go. I mean, that's the nice thing about it. The GMC truck, I run a 1-inch spacer on there. I could probably run a 2-inch. I've got more room to do it, but yeah, the thicker the spacer and 4-hole's good, but yeah, the plastic spacer is blocking that heat coming through there. It's good stuff. It is good stuff. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. Um, so, I mean, yeah. I remember that there was a tech office manager there that I think it was a tech office manager. Maybe it wasn't, but yeah, I remember sending it over. That is a weird one, but when these are cast and there's video of this, not casting these, but they make these in Sanford, North Carolina. They're cast there, and then in this case, they push in the ring for, um, uh, for the annular booster, or if it's a down leg style, they drill that hole out and push it, or for the down leg, this is for the annular. But yeah, that one was a weird one as you were describing it to me. I was like, I don't think I can help you on that one, dude, because I didn't have boosters, but they did, and I'm glad they took care of you, man. That's the kind of, I don't do these videos because I'm a die-hard Edelbrock guy, but I do these videos with the faith that if I send you to Edelbrock to have something taken care of, they'll take care of it. I've done it over and over and over and over and over and over again with those folks, and didn't matter if they were in Torrance or now here, oddly enough, close by to me here in Olive Branch, Mississippi. They've maintained the same thing. They're very, very customer driven, and I love that about them. So I forgot about that it was that booster that was leaking. So no, I think we put you. I don't know if I put you in touch directly with Smitty or one of the guys out there, but maybe it was Smitty that got that for you. But no, you didn't. It was just that sometimes it's hard to figure out the path to go down, and I finally found something that I'm beneficial at. It could help you or help somebody get to the right deal. So yeah, that's very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty neat that they were able to send that to you. Those are hard to get a hold of. It's not like those guys keep, these. They had to probably call the production facility in Sanford. They probably mailed them or allowed them to take that out of some soft parts that were there or miscellaneous parts, or I think they call them bulk parts, and send them to you. So wherever they came from, trust me, they did a little bit of work on it, but it was well worth it because you got running down the road. So 800 CFM on a 383 could be. It could be perfect. It just goes back to the video on how to choose the right size carburetor that I did that math. So let me find a calculator here. So let's take that 383, and let's for giggles say that you're going to run that thing at 6,500 RPM. Okay, and divide that by 3,456. And it tells you it's about a 720, 750 CFM carburetor. Could you bump that up to 800? Yes, and the reason why you could really depends on other things. How you driving it? What other do you have any power adders on there like nitrous? I doubt you're going to put a supercharger or anything like that on there, but anything else that would cause you to need some more fuel, you always opt to go to the higher route, never go to the leaner route on the carburetor. So maybe your cam profile will run that engine all the way up to 6,800 RPM. That math will tell you all day long that the 800 may be the better CFM carburetor. So it's a lot situational, but the answer to that question is absolutely yes. Could be perfect for it. So just need more details and we could kind of sort it out. So uh I think I finally got caught up on the comments. I apologize for dragging so long, and then I also realized that we're 2 hours into this thing. And if you were here for the last live stream I did a month ago, I'm on not a new camera, but this is a DJI Osmo Action 3 camera, and it's just plugged into the laptop. It's going off battery power, and I've been operating on an action camera for 2 hours. Um, you can't do that with a GoPro these days. Those damn things overheat like crazy. Again, I'm not here to. You got to be careful because I'm going to go on another rant, and I've done enough of those tonight. So I apologize if you've been sitting here for 2 hours with me. But that DJI, and it's at 37% now. It was at 100% when I started, but I think it's still charging a little bit through the laptop. But I love that camera. It's done really well. But 2 hours in, wasn't expecting like that. I think we did like an hour and a half last time, and I've only drank one beer tonight. So Skinny Boy Winter is back. Guess I'm going to be skinny all winter now. I'm not drinking as much. So we'll see. All right, let me check the comments one more time, and then I'll let you guys get going because, like I said, I think I've probably bored you enough for today. So, yeah, $50 core. Yeah, hey, if you got it for $50, man, I would try to find a make it work, even if it was a little rich, and you could tune it. I would probably still try to run it. So, Edelbrock won you over with that. Like I said, it's been one of the nice things about Edelbrock, and I made mention of this back in January when it happened. But Smitty Smith, like a very dear friend of mine. I've known him as part of the industry forever. If you Google Smitty Smith and Edelbrock, you will find articles on that man. He used to be they called him Analog Smitty. And Analog Smitty did everything analog. So he was the carburetor guy, intake manifold guy, cylinder head guy. If you wanted to talk fuel injection, he just wouldn't do it. He was a 30-year Edelbrock employee. He started at Edelbrock in his 40s. He worked all the way up until the day that he had a life-ending heart attack in January and passed away very, very suddenly. He was working into his 70s, and I would see him at SEMA, PRI, and usually a couple other places during the year if he was working a car show or somewhere. And he said, I can't retire. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, thinking that he had no money or whatever, because I got plenty of money. I can't retire because I love this stuff. I can't do that. I'd be dead in a minute if I retired. But Smitty passed away, and I don't know if that was during that time where we were working on that thing for you, but Smitty was the epitome of customer service. And anyone that ever dealt with that guy, you can, like I said, you can read comments on forums and stuff like that if you're, in some of those places. And I guarantee you, everybody's will probably talk positively about Smitty. It was a tremendous loss when he left, when he died, because he had a lot of knowledge of these carburetors. And I'll be very honest with you. big majority of the things that I knew foundation wise came from Smitty. Everything else that I've learned came from me applying the things that he taught me. So Smitty was really my mentor in a lot of these things, and it breaks my heart every day thinking about him being gone. But he was a brilliant guy, and customer service was Smitty's mantra. Just take care of the customer, because that's the way Vic Edelbrock was too. Very fortunate to be able to work with and know Vic a little bit over the years. It's not like we were best friends, but I had a cell phone number in my phone. I still do to this day. Even though he passed in 2017, and I don't think calling him is going to get anywhere today, but Vic was the same way. Just take care of the customer and they will take care of you. Even if you lose money on whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Take care of them. They'll keep coming back. And it's what I've always loved about Edelbrock. And I'm thankful that the investment company that purchased them, majority of the interest in Edelbrock, close to 15 years ago now. That investment company's owned Edelbrock for a very long time, and now they own all of the Comp Performance Group as they all merged together. But thankfully, they didn't take that away from Vic, because I don't think he would have made that agreement with them to sell the company to him. But it's been a good thing. So again, man, I just went down emotional paths here and ranting on stuff, and man, I apologize. All right, I'm back to your comments. You know what? I'm just gonna hell with it. Even it's after over 2 hours, I'm just gonna keep going. I've had a long day, but I'm having a lot of fun here with you guys. So I hope you guys are too. 355 1806, good Thunder Series carburetor, love it. Initial timing 16, total 30. 20, this is on the biggest slot. One of the largest squirt gun eliminated bug. Should I rebaseline? Yes. Depending on where you're at, elevation wise, there, Tool Junkie, if you are any higher than 4,000 feet in elevation ish, 16 is probably a good place to start. If you're way up there, like I've got family that lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and they're at 7,000 feet, I always start everything at 18 degrees before top dead center. And I don't care if it's a small block Chevy or a Buick or whatever I'm tuning. So potentially a little bit of more timing, or sometimes you can take a little bit of it away if you got more efficient on the fuel side of things. But certainly, if you're on the biggest shot and it's helped, then you definitely retune. Nozzles are another one. Remember, nozzle isn't the nozzles on an Edelbrock carburetor isn't a measurement of how much fuel is delivered. The nozzle is a measurement of how quick or slow it delivers the shot of fuel from the accelerator pump. This won't increase the amount of fuel going in there, and I think you know this, but I'm just repeating it, I guess, for everybody else. But the nozzle is not. If this is a 20, was it a 28? This one's a 28. If I put a 43 on here, it's not going to give it a bigger shot of fuel, more fuel. What it's going to do is it's going to deliver the shot of fuel that the accelerator pump is giving at a quicker rate. So I very rarely will change nozzle sizes, but if we realize that we need that shot of fuel quicker, I will always go to a different nozzle size. So yeah, retuning at this point. Go back and re-look at everything, step up springs and rods and jets, and just, if you feel like it's got more in it and maybe a little bit more fuel is needed, or maybe the more timing is helped out, you can maybe get a little bit leaner with it. It's just kind of, sort of the seat of the pants type of deal. But yes, absolutely. Long story short, 45 minutes later after you ask your question or I put it on the screen, absolutely recalibrate, see if you can see how it's doing. I still have a bog hammer. Okay. 1405, spits and sputters, kind of full of power from the stop. Casey, it all really kind of depends on a lot of things. Like I said, we talked about earlier, is timing. I can't remember if that was your question earlier, so I apologize if it's the same thing I said earlier to you. But timing, step up springs, and then start going through the calibration process. 1405 is a middle hole on the accelerator pump. Go to the top hole in it, see if it gets better. If it does, and it's adding more fuel is where you need to go, and then you can start looking at springs and everything else to kind of get you there. But um, it all really depends on the situation, and like I said, the timing's always a big one. If you're not depending on all the other details of it, but like I said, I usually start at 12 as my baseline on timing. So hopefully that'll help you. I know it's kind of ridiculous. I apologize. I hope I'm not boring anybody to death. Well, I guess that's the brilliance of YouTube. If I've bored you to death, you'd already been gone. So you're still here. I'm glad you're here. There between lean and rich bog. So it's kind of funny because sometimes it'll be the same thing. Typically with the rich bog, though, the nice indication is sometimes you can look out your back window when it's happening, and if you're blowing black smoke out there when it's a rich bog, it's usually fairly easy to tell because of the black smoke. It's unburned fuel that's coming out of there. And I know it's not perfect, but when we're talking about tuning without an AFR gauge and we're doing more seat of the pants, that's what I would do is, okay, yeah, you hammer it and you don't see any smoke out the back. Maybe adding more fuel is your best way to go. And it's always good to keep track of what adjustments you made, because if you add more fuel and it gets worse, well, then you know that you need to lean it. So once you start making those changes, you'll sort it out pretty quickly, even without an AFR gauge. So, Smitty Smith, good dude. Uh, 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 okay, so cool. Now I definitely appreciate the time this evening, guys. I've had a long day. I've had a long couple of weeks, month here. I'm not gonna sit here and cry about about my terrible life. I just had some crap that on the truck that's kind of frustrated me, and I mean we all get frustrated, but I think I got it sorted out now. I just got to get it all put back together. But this damn weather's turning, and I hate cold weather, and so I'm just going to sit here and gripe about everything. But I hope to get back on doing some more tuning type videos on the vehicle here pretty soon. I definitely apologize for that. SEMA is 3 weeks away, for God's sake. So probably my next live stream is going to be those 2 or 3 days from SEMA, where I do some live stream videos or showing you the show. And again, it's to show you that it's not a car show. It's an industry trade show, and I want you to see some of that. Here's the cool thing, and I made mention this on the last live stream. If you want to attend the SEMA show, in the past, you had to sneak in, essentially. It was a big no-no. Everybody in the world knew who you were. It was like a boner in a Speedo. Everybody could kind of see what was going on. You ask questions that aren't business related, and 90% of the questions you get from attendees at a show are talking about business. Did I say boner in a Speedo out loud? I did, didn't I? I apologize for that. I really shouldn't do that. Anyway, so everybody knows if you're not there, you're walking around the show with an exhibitor badge on. Actual buyers that are there from those warehouse distributors and retailers we talked about earlier, they will walk around with a buyer badge on. So most of the time when people get badges in there, they'll purchase an exhibitor badge. Everyone knows you're not supposed to be in there, but they've let it slide. What SEMA said is fine. We can't control that. We've tried. We've banned people out of here. We've banned companies out of here for it. It doesn't help anybody. So let's just open up the trade show for one day for anyone that wants to attend, any consumer, whoever wants to attend. So if you ever want to attend the SEMA show, Fridays now are, I don't know what they're officially calling it, but if you go to the semashow.org or SEMA.org and look at trade shows, it will give you the information about it. So if you ever wanted to attend SEMA, you can now do so legally, I guess is maybe is a word, but anyway, without being looked upon like you're a lunatic because you're asking questions where clearly everybody knows you're not supposed to be there. And then SEMA is now partnering with the city of Las Vegas to do more things. So end of the show, I say it's not a car show, and now I'm about to talk about car show crap. Um, but all of the vehicles that were inside the SEMA show now will drive out of there, and they call it SEMA Ignited, and then they will all go to a parking lot somewhere where they'll all sit around where the general public can take a look and see what cars were on the SEMA show floor, which is certainly cool. But now the city of Las Vegas is partnering with SEMA, and now there's music acts, there's drifting, there's all sorts of stuff going on in the city, and I think that takes place Friday night and potentially, I think maybe Saturday. So you could go there for a long weekend or a short weekend, do a Friday, Saturday, go home Sunday, hungover type of deal, where you can experience a little bit of the SEMA show. You can go on the inside and see it, and then attend the SEMA Ignited or whatever they're calling it now. So SEMA Fest or something, I think they're calling it. Something like that. Can't remember. But anyway, if you want to attend the show, you can. Again, going down freaking 300 pathways here when I shouldn't have been. So, or when you didn't ask the question. But anyway. Yep, I'm going to tell you something really blunt here, Casey. And I've made mention of this before. If you are going to buy an aftermarket EFI system, stick with a company that has done their own work. They've got their own research department, development, manufacturing and all that. If you want to run a Holley Sniper, run a Holley Sniper. Holley did all their work. If you want to run the Edelbrock ProFlow 4, run the Edelbrock ProFlow 4. Edelbrock was actually the first aftermarket EFI manufacturer in the country. They had one in the late 70s, believe it or not. That's when their EFI program started. If you want one like they're a little outdated now, but they still sell them, the Fuel Air Spark technology, or Fast. If you want a fast EFI system, buy one of those. I'll leave it at that. I won't mention that other manufacturer that you mentioned. Buy somebody that did their own research and work. Those three companies right there are really good EFI companies. They did all that their own. They were the ones that created the software, the tuning for it, the self-learning side of things. You're good to go with that. Even the MSD Atomic, which is owned by Holley now anyway, too. That would be another good option as well, too. I would run all of those because they were made by a company that did their own work. So. No, I don't. I don't have anything really on timing, and that's my fault. But I will have that fairly soon. So stay tuned. Or whatever the infomercials tell you. But no, I want to do those fairly soon. And timing and general timing will be one of the first videos I do when I kind of get the truck back where I want it again, or where I can run and drive again. I also have to replace all the brake lines on the truck. We won't talk about that. Thankfully, the truck's fine. I'm fine. But my ego is a little wounded. But yes, I'll be doing some timing videos here pretty soon. But unfortunately, not probably in the next couple of months. Or maybe in the next couple of months. I don't know. We'll see how the weather holds out. Cold start issue 600. No fuel, runs great. Could be, but cold start issue is the same thing. If you get in and go drive that carburetor around, have lots of fun, go drive for an hour or whatever, go take the girl out for a ice cream cone or whatever the case may be, and then you get back to your house and put the vehicle in the garage. You're laughing and having a good time, and it's all good. And it sits there all week, and you come back the next weekend to go do the same thing, and it doesn't start. It cranks and cranks and cranks and cranks. it's because of the ethanol in the fuel. It's evaporated out and it's boiled itself out of there. So you've drained the fuel out of the carburetor without you knowing. But like we mentioned earlier with some of the other folks, a heat spacer sometimes will help that. Doesn't cure it completely. If the car sits for a month or two, then yeah, it's just going to be out of fuel. It just is going to naturally evaporate. These universal style carburetors like the Holley 4150, 4160, the Edelbrock Carter style carburetors, in this type of configuration, they're vented to the atmosphere very heavily, and so they lose fuel very quickly. But hell, even back in the day with non-ethanol fuel in the late 80s and earlier, certainly we had those same issues where if it's sat forever, then it took you a long time. I'm assuming that's what you mean by a cold start issue. So, yeah, I apologize for that one. It's too many years in the Army and too many years making fun of the Navy guys and everything else. So, yeah, I'm just going to pretend like that one never happened. So, cool. Okay. Alrighty. Well, now that we're closer to 2.5 hours in, I'm going to go ahead and end this. Again, SEMA will be coming up here pretty soon. That'll be my next live streams. Those are always fun. I talked to Clay Milliken today for a little while at the Edelbrock deal. I'm going to try to get out to the drag strip on Saturday there. We try to do something special with him. So stay tuned for that. Hopefully I can do that. If not, no big deal. But Clay's a hell of a competitor. I'm so stoked for that guy, winning 3 events this year. He's such a kind guy. We did a car show, his first ever car show this year in July, I guess it was. And he did it for his local animal shelter because Clay's a big softy like I am when it comes to, dogs and cats and all that other stuff. And he raised $8,000 for his Tipton County animal shelter. But Clay's a good dude and he's a local guy. And I get to see him fairly frequently and always fortunate to be able to spend a few minutes with him. I spent quite a bit of time with him today, just going over some things, and his YouTube channel's growing and I'm trying to grow mine a little bit. So we may end up doing a little bit of a collaboration together and some other things we talked about. So we'll see what happens when he's off this winter. I may run out to his shop and we may do something out there with some of the tuning on Dentley or Baby D, which is he's a Mopar guy. So obviously, but yeah, so we'll see what comes from there. And then, like I say, hopefully I get the GMC issues behind me and we'll do some more tuning videos on that here pretty soon. So one last look through here. Well, alrighty, guys. Again, sorry that I railed on and on for 2.5 hours. I can't tell you the last time. I don't think I've ever done a live stream this long. So eventually we will do another carburetor rebuild video, but I was asked to do a live stream where we did it start to finish, meaning tear down to put together. I think I can probably have to do that on a clean carburetor because I can't show you the cleaning process. That would be a 5-hour long video. And I don't think I could last that long. So anyway, I sincerely really do appreciate you guys. Again, I never thought this YouTube channel would have more than, family and friends being subscribers. And we're about to roll over to 25,000 subscribers. And to me, that kind of terrifies me because I never expected that. But I'm glad that I hope that just means that some of the things I've been able to share have helped you get your cars run a little bit better and understand things that have happened, whether it's camshaft failures or, a little bit of the EFI tuning stuff that we've done in the past and all the Edelbrock carburetor videos and some of the Holley stuff we've done and some of the new product reviews and all that. I hope all that's been beneficial to you. And it still shocks me to this day that, more than 20 people wanted to subscribe to the channel. So I can't say thank you enough. So it's, to me, this is more of a, I'm not trying to be a YouTube star, but for me, I like being creative and I also like teaching. Um, I don't think I could have ever been a teacher because, as I just made allude to a minute ago, I still do not. I don't have a filter on my mouth sometimes, and things that I shouldn't say come out. I'm not going to repeat it again. But if you've been in here long enough, we just talked about it, and that's probably why I couldn't be in a high school for very long or a grade school because I would, have those kids in the front laying rest and you know, saying things inappropriate that I shouldn't, and I'd get fired. So anyway, cool. All right, I will. I will catch you guys all later. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and yeah, we'll talk soon. Probably do a live stream after SEMA, maybe the week after, to kind of talk about things I saw out there and maybe have some new products to drag home with me to show you. But I will catch you guys on the next one. I hope you guys got something out of this one. And yeah, if you don't mind leaving me a thumbs up down there. It helps YouTube out me with YouTube because YouTube likes that stuff. Even if you do give a thumbs down, now that I'm giving out useless information, if you go and put a thumbs down on somebody's video, it doesn't stop YouTube from pushing it into the atmosphere. It just tells it to stop giving it to you. YouTube views it as a positive interaction. So even if you put a thumbs down on this video, thank you. I appreciate that. YouTube likes that. It's a weird place. So I haven't figured out a lot, but I figured out some little things like that. So, all righty, guys. You guys have a great rest of your night and great Sunday tomorrow. And yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next one. I appreciate all the conversation tonight. Made this a lot of fun. So thank you, guys. We'll see you soon.